They were our diamonds. And then a company called De Beers was established for these diamonds. And the government of Botswana held, as it does now, 15% in De Beers. 15. You are the owner of the diamonds. They are in your country. They are your diamonds. People come from outside to discuss with you, and they take the lion's share of your own diamonds. On what logic is this justifiable? How does this make sense? How is the country broke? Now they are not being sold. Who is selling? De Beers. Then De Beers is not doing its job. Maybe we should take over and sell them ourselves. That's what we should do. And that will be deemed very radical. Now this guy is a label. But the country needs the money, and it has the diamonds, and somebody who's supposed to be selling the diamonds is not doing the job. Oh no. And we are simply sitting on our laurels, folding up our arms and hoping beyond hope that this... No. I will take the diamonds and see what we can do with them. They are ours. These diamonds are ours.
Something major just happened in southern Africa, and it has sent shockwaves through Washington. In a bold and unexpected move, Botswana has rejected a U.S. diamond agreement that many believed was already secured. A deal that would have given American companies deeper access to one of the world's richest diamond sectors has now collapsed. And the reason behind it is shaking the global market. For decades, foreign powers have looked to Botswana's diamonds as a strategic resource. But this time, Botswana did something different. Instead of accepting the pressure, instead of allowing outside influence, the government made a powerful announcement. Botswana will prioritize local ownership, local value, and local control. This isn't a small decision. This is a message that one of Africa's most resource-rich nations will no longer let its diamonds enrich foreign companies while local communities struggle. Analysts say the U.S. is now scrambling for answers. Investors are panicking, and global diamond markets are reacting fast. But why did Botswana reject the deal? What was the U.S. really trying to secure? And how will this decision change the balance of power in Africa's diamond industry? Stay with me, because this story reveals a major shift in how African nations are protecting their resources, and the world is not ready for what comes next. Botswana has always been known as the quiet giant of Africa's mineral world. With its peaceful politics, stable economy, and one of the highest per capita incomes in sub-Saharan Africa, the country rarely makes global headlines. But when it does, the world pays attention. And this time, the headlines shook far beyond Africa's borders. For decades, Botswana's diamond industry has been shaped through a partnership with De Beers, a global company with deep roots in resource extraction. The arrangement has brought Botswana billions of dollars, transforming its economy and building the foundation of its development. Schools, hospitals, roads, electricity, all tied to diamonds. But even with its successes, many inside Botswana began asking a difficult question. Why do foreign companies still hold the strongest influence over the industry when the diamonds come from Botswana's soil? This question became louder in recent years, especially as the government pushed for more local ownership, more transparency, and more control. And it is within this context that a new actor suddenly entered the picture: the United States. Under the surface, American companies had quietly been studying Botswana's diamond landscape, exploring ways to enter a market long dominated by others. Diamonds aren't just jewelry. In global geopolitics, they represent prestige, economic leverage, and access to advanced technology sectors that rely on industrial diamonds. For the U.S., securing influence inside Botswana's diamond chain would be a strategic win. For Botswana, it could easily become another dependency unless carefully managed. This is where the story begins. A confidential U.S. proposal arrived in Gaborone, offering what looked like a massive investment package. Billions of dollars, new technology for diamond processing, training programs for Botswana's youth, security cooperation, and promises of shared prosperity. At first glance, it appeared to be the biggest opportunity Botswana had seen in years. But when negotiators examined the details, concerns began to surface. Hidden inside the fine print were clauses that would give American companies significant authority over Botswana's diamond routes, pricing systems, export channels, and access rights to future mining zones. Essentially, Botswana risked handing over a large portion of its strategic industry to foreign control again. Officials inside Botswana's Ministry of Minerals quietly raised the alarm. They warned that accepting the deal would weaken Botswana's long-term independence. Local economists argued that the country had spent decades trying to build local ownership, and this agreement would reverse those gains. Within the mining community, workers whispered that foreign investors were once again circling, drawn by the promise of high profits. Botswana's diamond industry had already been shaped by foreign influence for too long, they said. This time needed to be different, and then came the turning point. During a high-level meeting, a senior U.S. representative allegedly pressured Botswana's negotiators to move quickly on the deal before other nations stepped in. The tone was aggressive, the deadlines unrealistic, and the implications uncomfortable. Botswana's leaders have always valued respect and international cooperation. So when the pressure intensified, something inside the negotiations broke. What was supposed to be a normal economic discussion transformed into a geopolitical standoff. Behind closed doors, Botswana's cabinet began debating the real cost of the deal. Could the country continue to rely on foreign giants to determine the direction of its diamond future? Or was it finally time to take full ownership? The idea of local control was more than a slogan, it was a new vision for Botswana. A vision where citizens, communities, and local companies would finally have the chance to rise in an industry historically shaped by outsiders. Community leaders argued that Botswana did not need another foreign partnership designed to extract value while the country only received a fraction of the benefits. They insisted that diamonds should build local wealth, not foreign portfolios. As these debates unfolded, the U.S. side continued pushing for faster approval. Analysts in Washington speculated that securing Botswana's diamonds could help stabilize America's access to high-value minerals and industrial diamonds used in advanced manufacturing. In the global race for resources, every advantage matters. But Botswana saw something different. They saw a threat to their sovereignty, their economic future, and their ability to control the destiny of their most precious resource. Eventually, the cabinet reached a decision. Botswana would reject the U.S. agreement. The proposal, once seen as a golden opportunity, was now viewed as a risk too great to accept, and when the public announcement came, it stunned the world. Botswana declared that it would not sign the deal because it preferred to strengthen local ownership, expand domestic processing, and support community-driven mining initiatives. The announcement was simple, direct, and historic. The reaction was immediate. In the U.S., officials expressed disappointment while analysts debated the implications. How did the U.S. lose Botswana? One headline asked, "A rare diplomatic setback," another wrote, "Across the global diamond market, investors held their breath. Prices fluctuated, rumors spread, and geopolitical experts began studying the situation more closely. They realized this was not a small dispute, it symbolized a major shift in how African countries negotiate with global powers." Inside Botswana, the mood was different. The rejection was celebrated as a bold act of self-determination. Radio stations interviewed local miners who said the decision restored their faith in the government. University students held debates about resource independence. Social media erupted with messages of national pride. It wasn't just about diamonds, it was about ownership, dignity, and the future of Botswana. But this victory also came with fears. Rejecting a major world power comes with risks. Would the U.S. reduce aid? Would political pressure intensify? Would foreign companies retaliate? These questions quietly circled inside Botswana's political circles, creating a wave of uncertainty. Yet the government stood firm. If Botswana did not take control of its resources now, when would it ever? To strengthen its position, Botswana began unveiling a new vision for its diamond future. Local beneficiation centers would expand, creating more jobs for Botswana's youth. Domestic companies would get more access to mining opportunities. Partnerships would be built with smaller, more flexible international firms that respected Botswana's terms. And for the first time, the government announced that communities living near mining areas would receive larger shares of benefit revenue. For too long, these communities had seen wealth leave their soil without improving their lives. This was set to change. Meanwhile, global powers continued to watch. China, Europe, India, and Gulf countries showed rising interest. But Botswana did not rush into new deals. Officials publicly stated that Botswana would never again sign agreements that weaken its sovereignty. The country had learned from past lessons. This time, every deal would serve national interests first. As weeks passed, leaks from diplomatic circles revealed that the U.S. had not expected such a strong rejection. For decades, many African countries had quickly accepted Western agreements without pushing back. But a new generation of leaders is emerging, more assertive, more strategic, and more focused on long-term stability. Botswana had just joined that wave. Local miners who had long felt overshadowed by massive foreign corporations began stepping forward. They formed cooperatives, invested in training programs, and expanded local operations. Young entrepreneurs entered the diamond polishing industry, bringing technology and innovation into a field once dominated by outsiders. It was a new era, an era of Botswana-led transformation. The rejection of the U.S. deal also caught the attention of African nations across the continent. From Namibia to Zambia, leaders began discussing how to renegotiate their own resource agreements. The message was clear: Africa no longer wanted deals that favored foreign companies while local communities suffered. Botswana's move inspired many to reconsider the balance of power in their own industries. Still, critics inside Botswana pointed out challenges. Local ownership requires skill, experience, and investment. Without careful planning, the industry could struggle. Some argued that foreign companies bring efficiency, expertise, and global market access. Others countered that Botswana could learn, adapt, and grow just as it did after independence. The debate continues, but the direction is set. Botswana wants to control its future. As the dust settled, the world realized something important. Botswana's rejection of the U.S. Diamond Agreement was not an act of hostility. It was an act of maturity, a decision made by a nation that understands the value of its resources and refuses to be rushed into agreements that weaken its sovereignty. For many Africans, this was a moment of pride. It showed that an African nation could confidently walk away from a major power, not out of anger, but out of purpose. And so, the story continues. Botswana now stands at a crossroads, shaping a future based on local strength, local ownership, and national pride. The world is watching. Investors are adjusting. Diplomats are recalibrating. And Botswana's people are hoping that this bold move becomes the foundation of a stronger, more independent future. This was not just the rejection of a deal. It was an announcement to the world that Botswana's diamonds belong first to Botswana, and the era of foreign dominance is coming to an end. As we come to the end of this story, one thing becomes clear. Botswana's decision to reject the U.S. Diamond Agreement was more than a political move, it was a moment of national transformation. A moment when a country known for its calm leadership and quiet diplomacy finally decided to raise its voice on the global stage and say, "Our resources belong to us." In a world where powerful nations often influence the economic direction of smaller countries, Botswana showed that sovereignty is not just a word. It is a responsibility to protect what belongs to the people, to defend the future of the next generation, and to make sure development is shaped by national interests, not foreign pressure. For decades, Botswana has been praised as one of Africa's most stable democracies, and much of that success was built on the diamond industry. But stability does not mean dependency. Growth does not mean surrender, and progress does not mean allowing outsiders to shape the destiny of a nation. Botswana's leaders knew that accepting the wrong agreement, even one packaged with promises, investments, and friendly language, could lead to long-term consequences. The country has worked too hard, sacrificed too much, and built too carefully to simply hand over such a critical industry to foreign control again. So the choice to reject the deal was not an act of defiance. It was an act of protection. Across the country, ordinary citizens could feel the weight of this decision. Local miners, farmers, business owners, and young people understood that diamonds are more than just stones. They are opportunities. They are education for children, clinics for families, jobs for communities, and hope for the future. When Botswana said no, it was not rejecting a partnership. It was choosing the right kind of partnership. One where the nation stands as an equal, not a dependent. One where Botswana determines the value of its diamonds, not foreign companies. One where profits strengthen the country, not escape it. But this story also carries a deeper message, not just for Botswana, but for Africa as a whole. For many years, the continent's natural resources have attracted global powers eager to benefit from Africa's richness while giving back only a small share. Countries have signed contracts they did not understand or accepted agreements they had no power to negotiate. But that era is changing. A new wave of African leadership is rising, bold, confident, informed, and unwilling to repeat the mistakes of the past. Botswana's stance sends a message across the continent. Africa is learning to negotiate from a position of strength. Africa is learning to say no. Africa is learning to put its people first. Of course, the road ahead will not be easy. Local ownership brings new responsibilities. Botswana must invest in its young people, strengthen its industries, and develop its own capabilities in mining, processing, and global trade. The country must ensure that corruption never finds its way into the very sector it is trying to protect. It must support local businesses and build strong institutions that can compete on the world stage. Rejecting the U.S. agreement was a bold first step, but it is only the beginning of a long journey toward true resource independence. And that journey will require unity, discipline, and a shared vision across the nation. The global reaction to Botswana's rejection also speaks volumes. When a country takes a stand, the world watches closely, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with confusion, sometimes with disappointment. But the important thing is that Botswana made its decision not out of fear, not out of desperation, and not out of political games. It made its decision out of principle. It chose its people. It chose its dignity, and it chose its future. Few nations have the courage to walk away from a major world power, especially when shiny promises are placed on the negotiation table. But Botswana did, and that courage will be remembered for years. As viewers, we must reflect on what this means for global geopolitics. Africa is entering a new era, an era of self-confidence, self-determination, and self-value, and Botswana is showing what that future could look like. A future where African countries negotiate deals on their terms. A future where natural wealth is used to build schools, hospitals, roads, and industries. A future where the people, not foreign corporations, benefit the most. Botswana is proving that sovereignty is not something you announce, it is something you demonstrate through action. As we close this story, Botswana stands taller than before, stronger than before, more independent than before. The rejection of the U.S. Diamond Agreement is now part of the country's history, a defining moment. That showed the world what leadership looks like. It showed that even in a world dominated by global superpowers, a small African nation can make a big decision and force the world to respect it. Botswana chose local ownership. Botswana chose its people. Botswana chose its future. Thank you for watching. If you want more powerful stories about Africa's rising strength and global influence, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. This is only the beginning. Africa's next chapter is being written and you don't want to miss a single moment of it.